chose her best friend's father as the anchor of this story. That weekend, when the lake house quieted and the candles burned low, I felt the old ache of longing wake up inside me, as if a door I had kept closed for years suddenly creaked open. My name is Olivia. I am 38 years old, and I thought my life had settled into a safe rhythm. A steady job designing community spaces, a marriage that was comfortable, if not thrilling, and a circle of friends where every joke kept the light on the surface and never let the water seethe beneath. Mia, my best friend, trusted me with her laughter and her memories, and Marcus, her father, had always been the kind of man who offered a chair and a listening ear, a warm smile, and a quick, easy reassurance that everything would be all right. He was older than us, perhaps 20 years my senior. With a practiced calm in his voice and a glassy blue gaze that saw more than people offered up to him. The irony of it all was that I had once believed a second chance would arrive in grand, dramatic waves, not in the slow, almost inaudible tide that rose whenever Marcus spoke to me in the kitchen after a long day of meetings. If there was a line in this town, I never learned where it lay, but on that first night, I could feel the tremble of it against my skin as he slid into the chair next to mine. The air between us humid with unsaid thoughts and the soft echo of waves brushing the shore outside. The room smelled of pine and rain, and the faint tang of cold coffee, and I found myself listening to his weathered voice as if it might teach me something I did not yet know about myself. The setting of my stable life was not a fairy tale. It was a careful construction of routines. My husband, Eric, worked long hours and kept his phone close at night. A habit that used to reassure me and later began to press at the edges of my patience. Our conversations had thinned into polite exchanges about chores and schedules, and the children we did not have because we had not chosen to risk them. Not yet. Then there was Mia, bright and loyal, whose bond with me had weathered college dorm rooms and career moves, and the small storms of marriage and motherhood that life sometimes tosses like pebbles into a pond. I cherished Mia's friendship as a treasure chest of companionship and honest talk. And I never thought the weekend planned around her family would become my turning point. The inciting incident came in a room that smelled faintly of cedar and lemon, when Eric did not come home at the expected time and a door closed softly somewhere in the house. And later, a message arrived on my phone that slithered into my thoughts with a cold honesty. I am leaving. The words did not come from Eric. They showed up in the voice of a trusted memory and in the tremor of my own hands. And as I read, the room seemed to tilt, and the walls learned the sound of my own breath breaking. There had been a revelation of a different kind, not a betrayal of a wife or a lover, but a truth about my marriage that had waited in the wings as if it had known all along we would come here, to the water and the quiet, to reckon with what we had built and what we had failed to nurture. The revelation was not simply that I stood on the edge of a precipice. It was that the world around me began to tilt toward Marcus, the father of my best friend, and with him came a safety and a danger that tugged at me with equal force. He did not flirt with fireworks or parade his interest with flashing signs. He spoke softly, as if unsure himself, and when our eyes met across the dining room table or in the hall outside Mia's room, the recognition that we had both felt something real pressed at the corners of our mouths, until a small, almost shy smile would rise and then fall away again, as if we were both afraid to name what we already saw. Rising action carried me through days of tension braided with tenderness. I found myself drawn into long conversations with Marcus that began as practical talk about how to fix the porch light or arrange the schedule for the next family gathering, and then drifted toward the weathered honesty of people who had lived enough to know that desire does not wait for permission. He listened to me the way a good reader listens to a secret, with patience and a kind of reverence that made my chest ache with longing and fear all at once. I smelled the clean soap his hands wore after dinner, felt the warmth of his palm when he steadied me as we stepped down from the veranda after rain, heard the soft creak of the old chair he favored as he settled with me to talk about fear and forgiveness and the quiet ache of a life that had not become what we hoped. The more I let myself entertain the possibility of a connection, the more I watched the clock, the calendar, the world around me tighten into a single red thread that threatened to pull everything apart. The moral weight of what we were risking pressed down on my shoulders, and I tried to bend away from his gaze, from the way his eyes searched mine as if he were reading a page in a book I did not dare finish. The truth was that the weekend had become a map leading to a coastline I had never crossed, and every shoreline I touched felt both dangerous and necessary. Then, at the height of a late night, where the lake lay like a black mirror and the house sounded small and intimate as if it too held its breath, I received a message, not from him, but from myself, a confession I had never voiced aloud. I could not pretend that what I felt for Marcus did not shift the ground beneath my feet. If this confession has you on the edge of your seat, hit like and share because you will not believe what happens next. The decision to reveal what was happening, to risk not only my own heart but the future of the friendship I valued so deeply, felt like stepping into a storm without knowing if I would be swept away or saved. I chose to name what I was learning, slowly and honestly, to Marcus, to Mia, to the marriage that seemed to be dissolving in slow motion, and to the future that might hold a second chance if we dared to give it a chance. My voice wavered when I spoke, a tremor of honesty that surprised me, and Marcus listened without saying too much, only offering the quiet certainty that sometimes love does not arrive with a grand entrance, but rather with a steady hand, offered at a time when you are too tired to pretend you do not need it. The weeks that followed were not filled with perfect clarity. They were filled with small decisions, each one a careful inch toward truth. We established boundaries that felt as if they could hold a fragile shelter over our heads. No promises spoken in the heat of the moment, no hidden meetings, no private messages that could break or ruin, only a slow, cautious movement toward what might be possible when the fog lifted and the air grew lighter. I learned that forgiveness is not only meant for others, but for the parts of us that have been silenced by fear. The second chance I found did not arrive in a blazing kiss or a dramatic vow, but rather as the quiet recognition that a future could hold two people who had once believed their lives were fixed, now choosing a different course that might still allow them to grow, to heal, and to love again in a way that honored the past and dared to imagine a kinder, truer version of tomorrow. As autumn bled into winter, I could sense a new season forming. One where Marcus remained a steady presence in my life, not as a fantasy, but as a partner in the long, honest work of rebuilding trust. The old ache did not vanish, but it shifted, becoming a reminder of my capacity to choose, to grieve, and to love with a kind of maturity I had not fully trusted in myself before. The heart remembers what it was told to forget, and mine learned to carry both the ache of loss and the hopeful spark of potential at the same time. We did not erase months of distance between us with one grand declaration. We let time and restraint carve a path towards something that felt like a true second chance, a possibility that could grow if we tended it with care, with patience, with honesty, with the same quiet courage that had carried us through the Saturday morning talks, the open windows, the lingering scent of rain on the wooden floors. And I am learning that love can arrive in the most unexpected of places. And if you are willing to listen to your own truth, it can stay, not to erase the past, but to illuminate what your future might hold. Olivia and Marcus, a shared breath and a careful promise, a return to themselves and to each other, a healing that does not erase the pain, but gives it a new shape, a life beyond fear, a chance to belong again. And a sense that even in the most forbidden of loves, there can be a true, lasting light. If you crave more raw, emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits. Emotional storytelling, forbidden love, second chances, mature romance, infidelity in marriage, love after loss, grief and healing, tenant love story, romantic narration, YouTube romance, healing through love, slow burn romance, older woman, younger man, heartfelt story, true feelings, emotional connection, faceless love, Olivia and Marcus, narrative romance, love found me.